we in the limo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Cam, and welcome back to the Phillips Project, where myself and Jacob Collins are reviewing every Todd Phillips directed film in honor of Joker Folie à Deux coming to theaters this weekend. We've already covered everything up to The Hangover 2. The link for the playlist is in the eye in the right-hand corner. Go check it out. But now we have got to get into The Hangover 3. And I gotta say, the movie's not as bad as I've heard some people say. It's not great. I think that these are tricky, Collins, and we'll talk about it. But it's like two and three are like not great for different reasons. That's just where I stand on it, at least.
One tries to copy part one, while part two, Hangover 2, 3 tries to be its own thing. And it's like, and the sad thing was, everybody who went and saw Hangover 1 and 2 were expecting a hangover and were so let down because the hangover, there is no hangover in the movie until the credits. Like if you do
Ah,
not, and if you get after the credits, if you do not stick, like you didn't even know, I had to literally tell you that there's a post credit scene, and you're like, no, there is. I'm like, yeah, there is. And you're like, oh shit, there is. And I'm like, yes, that is the only part of the movie where a hangover is. And there are people, can you believe there are people out there who've seen the Hangover 3 who got up and left without the credits and that don't know that there is a hangover in that movie.
let's get into plot-related matters. This movie picks up 4 years after the first Hangover. Everyone has settled down and moved on with their lives except for Al. Excuse me. Except for Alan, who is the lone man-child who has refused to move on. After the death of his father, they all stage an intervention for him and basically send him to some kind of like not a fat camp. They say a fat camp, but it's called New Horizons. It's never really said what it is that I'm aware
It's a
of.
mental health facility that treats people that are mentally ill.
Yeah, let's go with that. But on their way there, they are intercepted by a man named Marshall, not Eminem, played by John Goodman. John Goodman has a bone to pick with Leslie Chow. Chow stole about $40 million worth of gold from Marshall. And so Marshall is like, well, I'm going to need my gold back. And you are the only people who know anything about Leslie Chow. So if you don't get it back for me in 3 days, I'm going to kill White Doug for real and send him to Christian heaven. And that's your Hangover movie, folks.
Come on, man, that's garbage.
I mean, don't it doesn't just sound like a Hangover movie? I mean, good. This is just Collins, we were texting each other. Let's give it a minute.
Sorry, you always said in the description.
I
Said in the criminal description. I'm like, wow, that's a good one. That is better than the Eminem one. Made me laugh when you said not we said Marshall, not Eminem, but we said Christian in the Christian heaven. That had me like dying. I'm like, oh shit, that is actually clever. Like, there's Jewish heaven, but he's not sending stew there. He's sending Doug. Not saying it'd be Jewish heaven for Doug, but no, but yeah, we were texting back and forth about this movie.
Yeah, and basically I was saying like this is the one that jumped the shark. Somehow in all the insanity that Hangover 2 had, that was parts of it we can accept. But as soon as Marshall's like, I pulled a hit on this random prince from Abu Dhabi. I stole about $40 million in gold from him, and Leslie Chow somehow like got rid of that. Like somehow I can buy a tiger in a bathroom, Mike Tyson showing up out of nowhere. Somehow that all makes sense. But like Mission Impossible Ghost Hangover Protocol or whatever somehow just doesn't. Oh, this was just
They never
weird.
explain either. Like, one thing I was noticing is, how did he know that the gold was there? Like, I mean, I guess you could explain it kind of. I guess you could say, well, he studied the house, Marshall's house, and everything, and he maybe had blueprints and he saw construction crews going in and out. You could probably put that together. Maybe that's a stretch, but like, I was just wondering, like, how would he know where it is in the house? Even if he knew, oh, I believe the gold is in the house. How would you know exactly where it's at and how to get to it and where? Like, it's like just all this shit, especially when he's been in prison for the last 4 years.
I mean, apparently the you can escape out of a Thai prison like
In
Shawshank
Shawshank Redemption.
Redemption. They literally do the thing where it's the poster, like the Rita Hayworth poster in Shawshank. They do it with a hang in
Yeah.
there poster. And like they do the exact same shot. It's like the dolly shot, like as you look like behind you, not behind you, but as Bob Gunton lifts it up and then looks down, like the prison guard opens it up and then like the camera pulls away from him like Shawshank. So definitely ripping off Shawshank quite a bit there.
Well, let me ask you this: Were you expecting it to be like it starts out with Phil Collins getting a call, Doug's wife saying, "We fucked up again"?
I mean, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, it's like I said in the Hangover 2 review, I would have appreciated if they tried something different. Todd Phillips was like, "All right,
Right.
well, here's different," and now it's like, "I preferred it when you did the old stuff."
Everyone I knew was so disappointed. I mean, this movie made way less because word of mouth got out about this movie. Like the second movie made like $800 million, and the third one made like 347. Like
Exactly.
like around 300 million. And you could tell that's a big elite difference because you could tell what worked and what didn't work. Yeah, at least the second one was repetitive, but at least it was what it delivered. If you went into the movie expecting a hangover, you got it.
Exactly.
You know, this movie, if you were expecting a hangover, you're shit out of luck.
Pretty much,
Expect unless
yeah.
you
And
stay for the credits is the only time they're like, here you go. We technically deliver.
this movie stands like I talked about how Alan was a monolith for what The Hangover used to be in Hangover Part 2. Hangover 3 is now a mausoleum for what The Hangover 1 and 2 used to be. I mean they're it's a pale imitation of playing the hits. It's like Alice Cooper playing Generation Landslide on like the Special Forces album when you know that it's just a blatant cover because he's like coked out of his mind in that era, but that's a deep, deep, deep cut. I know, and I digress. But I'll
Yeah,
give
no.
credit where credit's due. John Goodman is actually pretty good in the movie, and
Oh yeah.
I have a soft spot for John Goodman. I like him in most of the things that he is in. But
But doesn't
like
he play the same character he plays in The Big Lebowski when he's talking about he fucked me in the ass? I'm just sitting thinking of that scene in The Big Lebowski where he goes, "This is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass," and I'm just
see what
like,
happens,
that's what
Larry?
that's what I'm just sitting there thinking. Like, this reminds me of his character from Big Lebowski, like literally.
I mean,
Like, he's even dressed the same. He's kind of
sure,
even dressed.
sort of, yeah, in a couple of scenes. But they I understand that Ken Jeong must have been pretty popular in this era. They give him way too much to do. They basically turn him into like the whole like agent of chaos, like the author of everyone's pain in this. Like if you eliminate Leslie Chow from this whole equation, this movie does not happen. And it
He
just
has more screen time than Doug does in this movie.
yes, I agree. Like Justin Bartha, they just paid him there to be like, "Hi, I'm Doug. I'm kidnapped. Where am I going?" And then like you don't see him like you can count the number of scenes Justin Bartha had on one hand and have fingers left over.
Like I will say this: there is things I do like in this. I know we're shitting on this movie heavily, but like there are things to do. I love the giraffe scene at the beginning, which you
That
pointed.
that was the best part of the movie. Like that was essentially a Final Destination death. Like the giraffe goes through the window and then it causes a crash and then the whole long truck full of tubes like explodes. Like that was great. And then kind of in a dark way, I kind of laughed where Jeffrey Tambor's character is like, you either need to get back on your meds or I'm cutting you off. And he walks away and then he has a heart attack that kills him while while
Assault.
soundtracked to It's My Life by Billy Joel. I laughed way too hard at that.
The funeral made me laugh really hard because he's like, "Thank you so much." He says, "I can't believe my dad is dead. There's so many people that I'd rather have died, like my mother." And then he says, "I was his favorite child." And both like he only offends his mother and his sister in that whole scene. And then on top of that, he lies and says shit that's not true. Like my dad said, the last words he said to me was, "Don't ever." Where's their law look like? He never said that. Like he was literally gasping for it. Like it's just like so stupid. Like it just like that just was also really made me laugh also whenever like they're whenever Chow is like has the cockfights, like he says and all the chickens get loose and he goes, Holstein's just shooting at Stu, goes, hold still, I'm trying to get him. And they goes, why are they so messed up? They're angry. All I feed them is cocaine and chicken.
Honestly, honestly, Alan in this movie is just useless. And we were talking back and forth. You argued that he was useless in Hangover 2, and he was, but he's useless and annoying in this one too. There are several
At least the
conversations
hangover one.
where just the comedy just boils down to his warped worldview, and I just hated it. And then he finds a love interest in Melissa McCarthy, of all people, and just, boy, those two deserve each other, don't they? Just wow. And then none of the other Wolfpack members have much to do. Like they're just there because this is the hangover and like it must be allowed to happen.
Like I will say, we didn't say what happens in Hangover 2. We didn't say like there was a point like Stu is trying to impress his father-in-law and he takes Teddy and they get lost, but he stands up at the end. There is no point to Stu and Alan in this movie, or even Phil, except it's the Hangover 3.
Yeah, and the Hangover 2 is barely referenced in this, if it's even referenced at all. The first one
Oh,
is
there's
referenced.
well, especially when they mention the tattoo when he says, "Oh, about," he said, "What's the worst that happened? You get a tattoo because Alan." He goes, "Yeah, yeah, a tattoo, yeah." And then Phil goes, "By the way, did you ever get tested for the ink that went inside you?" And
I
he goes,
missed that. I definitely missed that. Thank you for catching that.
I was like, yeah, which I mean, when I saw this movie, I saw it in theaters. I saw Hangover 2 and 3 in theaters. And I remember I was so excited for the year 2013 because Man of Steel was coming out. And I just saw Star Trek in the Darkness. And I was really excited because I love Star Trek in the Darkness. And I was waiting for Hangover 3. And I remember they had the poster all over after Star Trek. You watched out Star Trek 2, they had the poster for Hangover 3 framed, where they basically ripped off the poster from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. You know
Mhm.
how it has Harry and Voldemort's looking at each other and Hogwarts in the background burning? They was literally Chow and Alan looking at each other like this, and Vegas burning in the background. It says, "It all ends Memorial Day 2013." And I'm just thinking, I'm sure J.K. Rowling and the Warner Brothers, well, I mean, I'm sure the Warner Brothers put the poster. I'm sure J.K. Rowling and the director of Harry Potter really appreciate you ripping off. They're taking like their poster and making an R-rated comedy poster around it, which we know Vegas isn't going to burn to the ground. We know
Of
that's
course,
not going to happen.
of course not. There is a part of me that really did appreciate that they had
Original
the stripper who Stu marries in the first one. I can't think of her name.
Heather Graham's character,
Yeah, her.
Heather Graham,
I liked seeing her.
and the
I like
baby. They brought the
seeing
baby back.
the baby grown up.
Oh,
I
I
did
love.
appreciate that. Like, and just it all ties back to Zach Galifianakis' character just being a man child, and that's literally it. Like, there's no
You
depth,
know
there's
the
barely any change at all.
well. This feels like with the first one was Doug's movie, the second one's Stu's movie, and the third one's Alan's movie. But I will say with the third one though, it feels like yeah, it's Alan's movie, but by default, but it's really awful. But I will say like there are moments in the movie that I did laugh at, like John when John. Okay, I was gonna say John Stewart. Yeah,
Boy, wouldn't that have
John,
been a different movie?
oh yeah. Let me talk to you about climate change, okay? Let me talk to you about and you're like, what the fuck is this doing? He's just kidnapped. Like but no, it was basically John Stewart, okay. No, John Goodman is literally reading when he's reading the letters out saying, "Hey Alan, it's me." He said, "Alan, it's me, Alan Chow. The McRib is back. Hey Alan, threw urine on guard, blamed it on cellmate. It was funny. Wish you were here." Stuff like that was when we laugh, Chow, because Chow is a great character, especially yeah, Chow really is literally the villain, their Joker of the Hangover universe. He is literally their Joker because he literally screws them over. Which I was whenever we saw this movie in 2013, and I see him loading the bricks up. I'm like, why would you give him the bricks? Because he could shut that door and lock you in there. You know,
And then that's literally what happens.
And then he not only does that, he cuts the alarm and then kills the dogs. I'm like, which is a sick fuck for doing that too. Like, which it's really messed up that he did that because I'm like, which they don't show it, but like John Goodman said off the camera, he kills the dogs because he's a sick fuck. But like, which I mean, like, also like, I'm just thinking, you have a sledgehammer. I was watching this today. I was thinking, you have a sledgehammer. The door is locked. You know, you could use the sledgehammer to tear down the door to get out of here. Why would you wait for the police? Because if you get, he said, Doug dies if you get involved with police. What are you going to tell the police? Even though obviously he has the police in his pocket. But I'm thinking, how would you explain this? Officer, we were with somebody and we got locked in the house because the guy was robbing this person. I mean, I wouldn't know how to explain it because if you tell the truth, Doug dies. That's how I would see it. That obviously they don't know that John Goodman has the Mexican police in their pocket. But like, I was just like, but the it just feels like, yeah, Alan is the author of a lot of the pain. I will say there are some things I do like in this movie. Like, it does show that Alan is growing up. Like, we'll say at the end of the movie, but it feels like it doesn't feel like it's earned, though. It's like Alan doesn't go through a journey in this movie. He just does a bunch of crazy shit till eventually he meets a woman, and then he's like, hey, I should stop doing crazy shit now. And I'm like, you drugged them twice. You drugged them twice. And then, like I said, because of you, like, you literally, he's so stupid because he's like, chow. Doug gets taken because which it was like funny whenever he's asked John Goodman, can you take Stu instead? Stu's like, fuck you, Al.
Yeah, like
You
what
know,
did Stu do to deserve any of that? That's what I
like,
wanted to know.
well, Stu, he blames, like, he doesn't like Stu as much as Doug, but I'm like, Stu literally has been nothing but nice to you. Like, Stu is like,
Stu
you're the
has been
reason,
the
like, you,
most tolerant one of the wolf pack. Like in the funeral, Stu is like he just comes into my office, he reads the highlights magazines, he does whatever puzzles he can, and he leaves. Like if I were him, I'd be like, okay, you need to leave. Like kids come in here and you look like, and it's been heavily implied that he belongs on a list somewhere, so you need to leave. Like
and
I
one
would
of
have
his
kicked
best
him
friends at
out,
Sean.
but Stu didn't. So Stu was the only one that gave Alan any kind of time of day. And that just never happened.
And then on top of that, you know what happened because of that? You know what? Stu is so nice to Alan that because of the Stu being nice, he had lost a tooth, got a tattoo pulled, got raped, got tasered, and then on top, well, I mean, it wasn't rape. He was like, but in a drug-in state, I would say he got raped because it was a drug-in state. He was not consent. You know, when you're drugged, you're not really consenting. But like, and on top of that, he's got like tasered, and then on top of it, then they basically get kidnapped again. It's like it just seems like the same shit keeps happening to them because of Alan. It's like it is you were literally you and Chow are the if we would get rid of Alan and Chow, then they would have a good life. Really, it's Alan that's causing it. Alan Chow would not be in their lives if Alan wasn't in their lives. And because Alan's the one that reached out to Chow. Literally, Alan was the one that was writing Chow after Hangover 1. That was like, yeah, he's my friend now. And I'm like, he literally kidnapped Doug. Well, he kidnapped Black
Just
Doug.
an all-time dumb moment on Alan's part. I don't want to talk about this movie any longer than we have to, so let's just cut it off here
But let me ask
unless
you
you
this
want
before
to.
we do wrap it up. What did you think about the actual hangover at the end of it?
We're talking about like what happens at
In the
the end.
credits.
I mean, I'll, my favorite part of the movie is still the giraffe scene, but that mid-credit scene is not far behind. That's the only thing hangover related in the Hangover 3. Like,
he
and
gets a pair of tits in the end. Like, I got that would have actually been funny if they would have. That's what I was like. It would have been much funnier if they would have literally taken Alan to a thing and then they go to have drinks and then Alan drugs them again. And they wake up and like see his tits and they're like, look, and instead of getting lost, they're like, okay, we're all here. And then John Goodman shows up and from like the night before, you know, because like, you know, they bailed out Chow and like, you know, and, you know, that would have been, it would have been much cooler to see like, you know, I mean, that would have been I would have, that's what I understand. They went back to Vegas because in where it begins type of situation.
yeah.
But like I understood that, and I just felt like to me this movie just was a letdown for a third movie. It just follows a tradition of hey, if it's a third film, it's not going to be as good as the first one's the best. The second one is usually a really good sequel, and then the third film's always the suckiest. You know, there's only two franchises I know of that don't follow that trend. Like Transformers doesn't follow that trend because usually the second one was awful. And so like, there's a couple franchises I know don't follow that trend, but like this is literally the definition of traditional Hollywood of, hey, we made two good ones and then there's shitty one, or some people might say, well, the first one's the only good one. That's up to me. But yeah, I think this movie is a very forgettable movie.
For me, on my scale, I'm gonna go, this movie's horrid. This was a chore to get through. And honestly, I mean, Bradley Cooper has said in interviews that he's interested in doing a Hangover 4. I mean, if there's ever a time to do it, it's now because Todd Phillips has a lot of clout with both the Joker movies. So if he were to
Well,
pitch it tomorrow, I'm sure it would at least get a look in. But
well,
I'm not sure like what they would go for with whatever they do decide if they do go that route. I'm not saying they will. I'm saying
yeah.
I'm just doing a what
Ed
if
Helms,
kind of gimmick.
yeah, because Ed Helms has actually said, because like they asked Ed Helms. Ed Helms usually, I mean, he really isn't doing nothing big. Like, I'm not trying to say like just try to just smirch him or nothing like that. I'm just saying like he's not been doing nothing, like he's not been in a bunch of movies since like it's only been like voiceovers and stuff. He
He's
hasn't
got
done a bunch.
he's got his office money, he's got his hangover
Yeah,
money, he's set. Like he
yeah,
doesn't need to do much now.
yeah. They asked Ed Helms like, what about Hangover 4? And he said there will be world peace in the Middle East before Hangover 4 happens. Is what he said. And
So
then Zach Galifianakis kind of said the same thing, where he said it would take a lot to get us four to agree to do Hangover 4. Which
so
I mean, apparently,
we'll be waiting a while, folks. I guess that's what they're
yeah.
trying to say. But I
And
pass it
Chow, the
off.
guy who plays Chow, said he would love to do a Chow spinoff. Ken Johnson, he would love to do a Chow spinoff. They discussed it after Hangover 3, before Hangover 3 came out, but then once Hangover 3 came out,
I
those talks
mean,
went away.
if the Jesus Rolls, that weird Big Lebowski spinoff proves anything, that just because your character is notable in a movie does not make you notable in a solo. That's all I will say on that.
We don't
But
need a Chow movie, okay?
no. But I pass it off to all of you. What did you think of The Hangover Part 3? Let us know in the comments. We would love to read what you have to say. And the project is nearing its conclusion, as in the coming days, we're going to be reviewing a real oddity in Todd Phillips's filmography, War Dogs, and we will be joined by a very special guest, and that is all you need to know. We filmed this in advance. Jacob and I know who the guest is, but let's just say it's someone pretty important and someone who has a unique perspective on the film we're going to be talking about. That's all you need to know.
It's not Todd Phillips. I just want you to know, like, but don't get your hope. It's not Todd Phillips, okay? But it is someone of importance to that project. But it's not
Something
Todd Phillips.
something tells me he's a bit busy right now. But for Jacob Collins, my name is Ryan Cam. We will see you all in the next one. Y'all take care.